So we're officially halfway through this season, and to start off this potential decline for all characters involved in one way or another, obviously we start with Emmett's wife finding this sex tape that Ray and Nikki have put together that was intended to be blackmail, but of course, like all their schemes against Emmett so far, obviously did not work in any way whatsoever in how they were planning. But after this, we go into what is essentially, at least for about the first half, and more so as it goes on, a Psy-themed episode, which is something I've kind of been waiting to happen, because I know they were... you don't get an actor like Michael Stuhlbarg in a part like this, and just keep him on the side for too long. It was only a matter of time before he really started to become a focus. And I do like how they handled a lot of this, though it has me thinking about his future, which certainly by this point is uncertain. But to go back a little bit first, I do like that I was a little bit disappointed in how they handled Varga and when he went to Emmett's house. How I thought that could have been more suspenseful and a bit more threatening than it actually was, though it still was. I did think it kind of lacked a certain... that intimidation that's been building up around his character. So we immediately start off with him and Psy in the office, and throughout the, not just this scene, but throughout the episode, we do start to realize Varga's kind of getting to go in that direction more and more with each new episode, and reveal kind of darker sides of what he's going to do or how he's going to handle his affairs. Even if that includes sticking his dick in Psy's World's Greatest Dad mug and then making him drink out of it, thus making Psy very intimidated and very shaken for the remainder of the episode, as Psy's world comes crashing down. I mean, we're having a lot of worlds crashing down here like Emmett's, but I mean, we really got to kind of dive into Psy and watch how he goes from this. As we've been talking about, he always thinks that he's kind of in charge of what Emmett does and pretty much everything around him, and this whole Ray situation where he tries to go and deal with Ray himself, be Emmett's fixer that he's supposed to be, that he just somehow Emmett keeps getting deeper and deeper despite Psy's fixing. So we finally get to see him, like, his ego basically dismantled throughout this episode, each step at a time, starting with the Varga scene, and then we introduce Mary McDonnell, who you might know as she was Stands with a Fist and Dances with Wolves, among many other things. And she is the storage queen of the Great Lakes to go up against Emmett's Parking Lot King of Minnesota. And I just love those titles. And watching him do this scene with Mary McDonnell where we kind of see him and he's trying to basically convey, like, he almost seems like he's on a level with her even though she's the competition, and she's basically saying, well, I'm basically going to destroy your industry if we don't, come to an agreement. And just Psy getting into this how he says, like, he doesn't even feel like he's in, I can't remember the exact lines, but he basically does not feel like he's in this life at this moment, because he had just had the Varga run-in right before this. And then watching his partnership with Emmett kind of fall apart over Emmett's impending divorce. And the way kind of Stuhlbarg just keeps he gets taken down a peg in like every new scene he's in this episode, and it just gets worse and worse for him until we finally get to that last scene. And then she's basically a broken human being by that point. And while I do have problems with the initial kind of first viewing problems, they may kind of smooth themselves out as we go, but in the meantime, regardless of the problems I do have with how this episode ended, the way Psy was able to go through this, and we kind of got to watch this complete, downgrade of his life or whatever, or at least, yeah, just in general. So I'm really glad we got to see that. However, it was before we got to the last scene. It was probably around the time, shortly after his scene with Mary McDonnell, where I was thinking... earlier I had expressed concern that Michael Stuhlbarg is not listed in the main cast, as he's the first spot in the guest starring list. And I was thinking that means that Psy is expendable in this story, and that he may not make it to episode 10. And it was somewhere in the middle here where I was thinking, yes, obviously we got more of him in this episode, because he got, like, most of the episode devoted to him. But at the same time, it makes me think his time may be running out. It felt like halfway, like, for starters, I was thinking, well, being in the guest starring list doesn't always mean you're not going to make it. Like, look at, for one example, Bokeem Woodbine in Season 2. But then, throughout this, and then I was thinking, you know, well, he's a major enough character that, you know, he'll probably stick through and it'll be all this. But somewhere halfway through this episode, I was just thinking, you know, I think his time's limited, actually. I honestly don't know how much longer Sai is going to be around. I could be wrong. He could go all the way, but I don't know. I feel like every time he's around Vargo's henchmen, I keep thinking it's going to get to a point where every time Sai has a run-in with Vargo, you're going to wonder if it's his last run-in with anybody. So that'll be interesting, and should be cause for that's kind of a good, you know, gateway to use suspense whenever Sai pretty much has a scene now, if you can get your full audience kind of thinking that way. But then it was kind of, there's other stuff I want to go into, but I guess I can jump to the ending real quick since we're there. I have to say, because of that, I was a little thrown off, and I don't know, this is probably more of a problem with me and how I was viewing it than necessarily what the episode did, because like I said, we've still got, you know, half the season to go, and we don't have a full picture. We only have 5 episodes. But I was really kind of put off by how they handled this confrontation between Sai and Nikki, because I was talking about before, I think the analogy I used was, it was like, so it seems like the core of the story is this sibling rivalry between Emmett and Ray, but in actuality, Emmett and Ray are just the Rock'em Sock'em robots that Sai and Nikki are using to fight each other, whether they know that or not. They know that now, but at the time they were just kind of the puppeteers to the two brothers. And then we get this moment that this episode, the entire second half of this episode builds up to, where Sai and Nikki are going to finally meet and hash this out. And I was kind of thinking, are we going to get a scene like when Sai met Ray? Because that scene was amazing. And then it did not go in the direction I was thinking, which of course typically is commendable, because it's really, in a sea of cliches that we're in any medium where everything has been done before, it's always nice when a story can make you feel like you're on a path and then just turns you onto another one, because then you don't know what's coming, and it just makes everything better when it's not predictable. But still, I couldn't help but be underwhelmed, not only in just the fact that it wasn't really a Sai and Nikki scene, it was a Sai and Nikki get interrupted by Varga's guys, and Nikki almost gets killed scene while Sai flees like the fucking coward that he is. And then I mean, I get it from a stance of Sai and Nikki have always been really high on themselves throughout this series, and Emmett and Ray have made them both feel like they're in complete control and they're in total power. And this is, to use a Coen Brothers reference, because why not? This is the end of this episode basically makes Sai and Nikki look at the situation and say, this is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass. And that's a good thing for those characters, but I did like the idea, the path we were on, where those two were kind of going at it from a distance, and then it was going to get up close and personal here, only to be interrupted. And I do understand why that can certainly lead to stronger things. But another thing that really put me off about this ending was the way it was shot, because I can't really tell if we were supposed to know what was going on the whole time, or if it was supposed to be some kind of fake out, because obviously I was saying I've been kind of afraid that Sai's going to go soon. And so when Sai and Nikki meet, how crazy and just out of nowhere it would have been if Nikki had been killed. Because at first they were going to drag her away, and I thought they were going to, you know, take her somewhere or something. And then we hear her getting beaten, and then it's like, oh, well, this is going to change things now. But the beating kept going and going and going. It was like the elevator scene in Drive. You just kept hearing it go on and on. And she was screaming, and then she finally stopped screaming. And then we just see this look of horror on Sai's face like he just saw a ghost. for 30 seconds, I was totally and completely convinced they had just killed off Mary Elizabeth Winstead right there in episode 5, regardless of the fact that she's in the main cast list and is a major, major character up to this point. And it just kind of... Like, and the thing was where we are in the story, even though it was from out of nowhere and actually makes no sense in context because, of course, she's a major character, of course they're not going to kill off her character. In the time period between Sai looking at this and then leaving and the time we saw her get up and get back in the car, I had totally convinced myself that it made perfect sense. Because it was... Obviously, we have a retaliation from Ray and Nikki, where they sent him the tape, and then it ended up that his wife found it, and she divorced him, and now Emmett's world is coming down. So now it's going to be like, if Nikki got herself killed, Sai is going to tell Ray, oh, Emmett must have done this in retaliation, thus making the two brothers go at it even more than ever because of the whole scene at the beginning when Ray and Nikki officially get engaged and we realize how much Ray really does love her and she may or may not. I'm still feel she's incredibly shady in regards to how she feels about Ray. She's like the total femme fatale thing, especially the way she did the, he says that he loves her and he wants to marry her and she says, oh, you're so sweet. And so, yeah, there's definitely, this feels like a one-sided relationship. It's just a matter of what's going to happen when Ray gets what she wants. What's going to happen to Ray then? So, yeah, we do have all that to go through, so it makes sense that she wasn't killed off, but still, just in that time period, it was like, it just totally made sense. It was like, this is going to drive the story so hard, and it comes from out of nowhere, from like, you know, a narrative perspective where it's like, you're trying to really throw your audience for a loop. It's like, yeah, you know, why not kill her? That would shock everybody. But of course, like I said, so they both make sense in a way, if they had killed her or the fact that she survives. But the way they... Because if they had maybe built it up... that's what I'm just saying, just the way it was shot where they didn't show it. Because the episode already had 4 uses of fuck, which I was under the impression they could only use 1 per episode, but that's out the window. So I don't know if maybe they had to tone down the rest of the episode because they used all their explicit content for the F-bomb conversation on the bus. But it was... Yeah, but it's almost like it was supposed to be a fake out because the way Sai was looking at her, he did not look like he was looking at somebody that had just been severely beaten. He looked like he just watched somebody get their fucking head cut off. I mean, sure, that's probably to show how weak Sai is, you know, in spirit, but still, it just... I kept waiting. I know it's so over the top, but still, the way they played that scene up and they didn't show anything... And that I wasn't quite sure what weapon he had because they walked off screen pretty fast. When we saw that she was still alive and crawling around, I kept waiting. We kept seeing her from like just the waist up when she climbed to the car, and then when she was in the bathtub before it finally panned out. I kept waiting for a shot where she had like a limb missing because that's how much they built it up. But no, she just got the fuck beat out of her, really, and it's. I don't know, it just kind of... So I wasn't sure, like, if it's supposed to be a fake-out, that's pretty weak, because you show that she's alive 30 seconds later. Like, if the episode had ended with Sai just fleeing, and then they wait till the next episode to show us she's still alive, maybe that's one thing. But for us to not see what exactly is happening, and for them to play it up in a really dark way... Like I said, the thing that really sold me there was... I mean, of course, she eventually would go unconscious, but still, 1 minute she's screaming, and 1 minute she's not, and we're still hearing that sound. And it's like, it was so easy to convince myself, she's fucking dead. I don't care how high in the credits she is, I don't care how important she is, I think they just fucking killed her. So anyway, so yes, yeah, the way it was shot was probably ill-advised, is basically the main criticism here, because you could... It just kind of makes it a weak payoff in general that, oh, she just climbed in her car and got away. It makes the ending feel weak when it felt like you were going in a really strong direction in one way or the other. Like, you didn't... For it to be the strong climax I'm talking about, they wouldn't have had to have killed her or anything, but it's just the way they built it up completely off screen, I just thought was not the way I would have gone. I'm sure they could have shown something. I mean, this is the channel that shows fucking American Horror Story. I mean, I'm sure they could have shown her getting beaten, or unless maybe they didn't want, like, backlash or something, like when, when the Hateful Eight was out and everybody was pissed off that they were showing Jennifer Jason Leigh get beaten up because she's a woman. Maybe they were trying to avoid that. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, I'm sure it's... When we see the full story, I'm sure it'll be fine. But just on that first viewing, that ending kind of left me with that, oh, that's all, I guess. So, yeah, especially after such build-up for a Sai and Nikki meeting, that was kind of... But we'll just see where they take it. There's some other really good scenes here. I really like the Emmett and Ray scenes. I love the phone call scene that ends with, like I said, they're dropping fuck left and right, and then he just looks around at the bystanders and says, "It was my mom." And that's really fun. And I really like the interrogation scene with Ray too. I really like. That's the thing, is some of the best scenes in the movie were when Marge was questioning people or when Jerry was under interrogation. And I love that the show is really using that and really makes the most of their interrogation scenes. And these interrogation scenes with Ray are fantastic. How he's really... Like, you just know he's guilty. Like, you just really know he's guilty. But the way Ewan McGregor plays it, where it's... You can tell just kind of everything about him and all of his desperation. And you can tell that even though it is somebody incredibly inept and looks absolutely guilty, you can still tell he's trying... He's trying his absolute best to not come off guilty, and I think McGregor just plays that flawlessly. And I love the moment when he's, I don't even know if this was on purpose, or if this was just what I heard, but it was when he was talking about what the information the cops have right now, and he basically tells Gloria and Winnie, you know, you can take that with a giant bag of salt, and it's like he's about to say giant bag of shit, because they're talking about, I think they were talking about Emmett at the time, and then he said he changed it to salt at the last minute before he says it. I could have just misheard it that way, but that's what it sounded like. But then you have this moment with Shea Whigham, whose character is basically... I know there's something here to be had about the way storytelling is used throughout the story, where a story that can seem totally irrelevant somehow relates to what's going on. Like this story Shea Whigham tells about the red balloon, and it's why they should let Ray go, because coincidences happen. But I don't know, going all the way up here and seeing his character and how it's gone, it felt less like they were using storytelling and this Shea Whigham character is a huge obstacle that's, you know, here and really drives the plot. It kind of feels like his character is here just to kind of keep Gloria in the dark with no other real purpose. And it seems kind of... It feels like they're kind of reaching every time. Gloria seems really close to figuring something out, and Shea Whigham's character is just here to say, don't do that, so that she can't figure out fast enough. Because it's like Shea Whigham's character is actually saying, we still got 5 episodes to go, slow down. You can't figure it out this fast. I have to keep blocking you from knowing the most obvious shit, so that we can keep going for 5 more episodes. This is the point where I kind of feel like I say this a lot, but I'm just gonna keep saying it. I do feel like with every season so far, this series has shown that it probably only needs 8 episodes a season. I really feel like they could get all their points across and all the other stuff, all the themes. They can be artistic about it. They can do everything, and they'd only need 8 episodes to get it just fine, but... I don't know, we'll see. So... There is, oh yes, the IRS scene with Hamish Linklater is a really good scene as well, and it's another one of those, Emmett gets to be the erratic, guilty-looking guy throughout this, and Hamish Linklater has some really good lines too. And this was one of the more suspenseful scenes of the episode, because it was Emmett's usually the one that's kind of, I mean, Emmett obviously is, you know, he can be erratic and all that too, but he just gets more and more. He just looks more and more guilty with everything that Linklater's character says, just offhand, just like, oh, well, it's like this, haha, as a joke or whatever. And with each new thing he says, Emmett is getting more and more just freaked out. And I love the way they really built on that, and how it seems like everybody in this area just must be so accepting, because everybody that is so incredibly guilty of something looks so incredibly guilty of something. And but everybody is just so, it's the Minnesota nice thing. Just everybody's so laid back. It's like Linklater probably just thinks, oh well, he's just a little nervous, but he seems a little neurotic, but I'm sure he's okay. We're only talking about, you know, $10,000. But yes, so I did really like. I'd like for him to kind of make a return to. I'm surely he will. Um, so yes, I think that's about it. I will say that I felt like this episode flowed a lot nicer than all the others we've had so far. Like this episode was almost 90 minutes. Well, I think the last two have only been closer to an hour. I think the only other ones this season that we've had come close to an hour and a half was the first one. But this one really flew by, because all that side stuff and then the back and forth with them and Ray's interrogation, it's all, this episode really had a nice flow to it. So I'm really hoping they can keep that up, and maybe we can kind of, where everybody kind of seems to be on the decline now, maybe everything can like every episode will be more eventful than the last, and we'll just get going and going until we get to whatever climax we're headed towards. So I guess we will find out. I think that's about it for this episode. So tomorrow, Alien Covenant I will be seeing and reviewing, and then I still don't know. It's the middle of the week, and it's past the middle of the week. I still don't know what the Versus is, but that's you'll find out soon enough. So until then, we'll see what happens next week, and that's it.